Why the mind feels restless and clouded. Hello, and welcome to the Buddha Light Podcast. Let me ask you something. Have you ever experienced a moment when, on the surface, life seems perfectly fine, yet inside your mind feels unsettled? Perhaps you just finished your work for the day, you're at home, safe and comfortable, but instead of resting peacefully, your mind keeps wandering, jumping from thought to thought. Or maybe you're surrounded by family and friends, yet there's still a weight in your chest that you can't quite explain. This experience is so common, isn't it? We often assume that peace of mind will come naturally once our outer conditions improve. We think, if only I had more time, less stress, or a better environment, then I'd feel calm. But when those conditions arrive, we often find that our inner turbulence still remains. In Buddhism, this inner restlessness and cloudiness is described through something very practical, something the Buddha called the Five Hindrances. These are not distant or mystical ideas. They're very real, very human experiences, mental obstacles that every one of us has felt. Think of them like clouds covering a clear blue sky. The sky itself, our mind in its natural state, is spacious, open, and calm. But when the hindrances gather, they block our view. The sunlight of clarity and wisdom feels dimmed, and we lose touch with the peaceful space that is already within us. What's important to understand is that these hindrances are not punishments or permanent flaws. They are simply conditions of the mind, habits that arise, pass, and can be worked with. Just like how we can notice when dark clouds are forming in the sky, we can also notice when these hindrances arise within us. And once we notice them, we gain a new freedom. Instead of being swept away by craving, irritation, laziness, restlessness, or doubt, we can pause. We can breathe. We can choose a wiser response. This is why the Buddha's teaching is so timeless. The five hindrances are not something only monks deal with in meditation halls. They appear everywhere. When we're trying to focus at work, when we feel jealous of someone on social media, when we can't fall asleep at night because our mind won't settle. And here's the encouraging part. By learning to recognize them, we don't just learn about obstacles, we also learn about freedom. Each hindrance, once seen clearly, becomes an opening. It becomes an invitation to return to balance, to let the mind breathe again, to reconnect with a peace that is not dependent on outer conditions. So, as we explore each of the five hindrances in this podcast, I invite you to listen not just with the mind, but also with the heart. Notice how these teachings show up in your own daily life. In moments of desire, in moments of frustration, in moments when energy sinks or the mind won't stop racing. Through awareness and gentle practice, we can begin to lift the clouds. The blue sky is already there, waiting for us. Thank you for being here with me today. Let's take this journey step by step together. Understanding the nature of hindrances. So, what exactly is a hindrance? In the Buddhist teachings, a hindrance simply means a force in the mind that prevents calmness, insight, and wisdom from arising. These forces are not enemies, nor are they punishments. They are natural tendencies of the human mind, habits that have been with us for a long time. One way to understand this is through a simple image. Imagine the mind as a bowl of clear water. When the water is still, we can see our reflection perfectly, just as we can see the bottom of the bowl. In the same way, when the mind is calm and steady, we can see things as they truly are. thoughts become sharp, emotions feel lighter, and wisdom can naturally arise. But now imagine if mud, sand, or leaves were stirred into that water. The water turns cloudy. No matter how much we try to peer into it, everything looks distorted. This is what the five hindrances do to the mind. They're like the mud that clouds the water, making it impossible to see clearly. Now, notice something important here. The mud is not the bowl, and it is not the water itself. The mud is something added in. This is good news, because it means the hindrances are not our true nature. They are conditions that arise and pass away, depending on how we relate to them. The clarity of the water is always possible. It just needs time and the right conditions to settle. You might reflect on this in daily life. Have you ever tried to make an important decision, but your mind was filled with worry or desire? It's like trying to see through muddy water. No matter how hard you think, the answer doesn't come clearly. Or perhaps you've noticed how, when you are calm and not pulled around by craving or irritation, the right choice often appears naturally, without force. This is the difference between a mind clouded by hindrances and a mind free from them. Understanding hindrances also helps us avoid self-blame. Many people think, why can't I meditate well? Why do I keep getting distracted? Why do I feel so agitated? But the truth is, these experiences are not signs of failure. They're simply the natural activity of hindrances. When we know them for what they are, we stop taking them so personally. We realize, oh, this is just restlessness, this is just desire, this is just dullness of mind. Naming them helps us create a gentle distance, and from that distance, clarity slowly begins to return. Another helpful way to think about hindrances is through the metaphor of clouds and the sky. The sky is always open and spacious, but when clouds gather, it seems hidden. We may even forget that the vast sky is still there behind the gray cover. In the same way, the pure potential of the mind is always there. The hindrances are like passing clouds. They may be heavy and dark, but they are not permanent. If we have patience, the clouds drift and the sky reveals itself again. So when we speak of the five hindrances, we're not talking about something mystical or foreign. We are simply pointing to the very common forces that disturb clarity in everyday life. By learning to identify them, we take the first step toward freedom. Just as muddy water can clear if left undisturbed, our mind too can return to its natural clarity when we bring awareness, patience, and care. This is why the Buddha emphasized not just the presence of hindrances, but the importance of recognizing them. Recognition is the doorway to transformation. Once we know what is clouding the water, we no longer fight blindly in the dark. We understand the cause of our unease, and slowly, we learn to let it settle. Hindrance 1. Sensual desire, the pull of endless craving. The first of the five hindrances is sensual desire. This is the pull of craving, our longing for pleasant sights, sounds, tastes, touches, and even thoughts or memories that give us comfort. On the surface, it seems harmless, even natural. After all, life offers so many pleasures, and we naturally lean toward what feels good. But the Buddha pointed out that while desire promises happiness, it rarely delivers lasting peace. Instead, it leaves us restless and unsatisfied, always reaching for something more. Think about it. How many times have we believed that if only I had this one thing, this food, this relationship, this possession, this experience, then I would be truly happy? And yet, when we finally get what we wanted, the joy fades and a new desire takes its place. Desire is like trying to quench thirst with salty water. For a brief moment, it seems refreshing, but soon after, the thirst grows stronger, not weaker. In the same way, chasing after endless cravings doesn't free us, it ties us down. It keeps the mind agitated, always moving, never still. To understand this hindrance more deeply, imagine the mind as a person carrying a backpack. Every craving we add, whether it's a craving for delicious food, for admiration, for luxury, or for escape, is like placing another heavy stone in the bag. At first, one or two stones don't feel too heavy, but over time, the load grows heavier and heavier. The journey of life becomes tiring, and we wonder why peace feels so far away. So how do we work with this? The Buddha did not say we must reject all pleasures or live with nothing. Instead, he taught us to see clearly and to cultivate balance. We can learn to enjoy what is wholesome and simple without clinging to it. One powerful way to soften desire is through the practice of contentment. Contentment doesn't mean we never strive to improve our lives. It means we appreciate what is already present, here and now. When we pause to notice the blessings already around us, desire naturally loses some of its power. Think of the simple joys, the taste of a warm meal when we are hungry, the kindness of a friend's smile, the quiet rhythm of our own breathing. These are not small things. They are reminders that peace and happiness can be found in the ordinary moments of life. Another supportive practice is gratitude. When we take a moment each day to reflect on what we already have, the heart grows lighter. Instead of chasing after the next thing, we begin to rest in the richness of the present. Gratitude transforms desire from restlessness into appreciation. Of course, the pull of craving is strong. Sometimes it feels like a wave that sweeps us away. But even then, there is wisdom in simply noticing it. Ah, this is desire. This is how it feels in the body and mind. By observing desire instead of obeying it, we loosen its grip. We begin to see it not as a command, but as a passing state of mind, like a cloud drifting across the sky. When we understand sensual desire in this way, it becomes less of an enemy and more of a teacher. It shows us where we grasp, where we cling, and where we can learn to let go. And with every small step toward contentment and gratitude, the mind becomes a little clearer, a little lighter, and more open to true peace. Hindrance 2, ill will, the fire of anger and resentment. The second hindrance is ill will, the presence of anger, resentment, or hostility in the heart. It can be directed outward toward another person or situation, or inward toward ourselves. Sometimes it's obvious, like an argument that leaves us fuming for hours. Other times, it's subtle, like a quiet irritation or a hard knot of judgment we carry silently. On the surface, anger feels powerful. It can feel like fire rushing through the body, giving us energy, heat, and even a sense of control. But if we look more deeply, we see something important. This fire always burns us first before it touches anyone else. The Buddha gave a simple image. It is like holding a hot coal in our hand, waiting for the right moment to throw it at someone. But while we wait, it's our own palm that gets scorched. Ill will consumes our peace of mind, tightens the body, and clouds our clarity. And the longer we hold it, the more damage it does to us. Think about how anger feels in your own experience. The racing heartbeat, the tightened jaw, the The restless thoughts replaying the same story again and again. Does it ever truly bring relief? Or does it leave us exhausted, unsettled, and heavy inside? So how do we work with this fire of ill will? The Buddha offered a gentle yet powerful medicine: kindness and patience. This doesn't mean we pretend everything is fine or suppress our feelings. Instead, it means we deliberately nurture an attitude of goodwill, a softening of the heart that wishes well, even in the smallest of ways. Imagine anger as a blazing fire in a forest. What happens if we pour water onto it, drop by drop? At first, the flames leap high and seem unstoppable. But if we keep going patiently with enough water, eventually the fire weakens and cools. Kindness and patience are like this water: slow, steady, and deeply transformative. One simple practice is to pause and silently wish well for others. It can be as quiet as thinking. May you be safe. May you find peace. May you be free from suffering. Even if we don't fully believe it at first, the act of turning our mind in this direction begins to shift the energy within us. Forgiveness also plays an important role here. It's easy to mistake forgiveness for weakness or surrender, but in the Dharma, it's the opposite. Forgiveness is freedom. It is the moment we choose not to let the coal burn our hand any longer. It does not mean we approve of harmful actions or forget what has happened. It means we free our own heart from carrying the poison. And just as importantly, this forgiveness extends inward as well. Often, our harshest anger is reserved for ourselves, for past mistakes, missed chances, or the ways we feel we've fallen short. But here too, the medicine is kindness. We can learn to speak to ourselves the way we would to a dear friend, with patience, encouragement, and compassion. When we begin to practice in this way, something remarkable happens. The energy that once fueled anger transforms into clarity, understanding, and strength. We discover that true power is not in lashing out, but in holding a steady, kind heart that cannot be shaken by the flames of resentment. So whenever you notice ill will rising, whether in a sharp flash of irritation or in the slow burn of resentment, pause. Recognize that coal in your hand and ask yourself gently, do I really want to keep holding this? With patience and kindness, the fire of anger begins to cool. And in its place, we find a heart that is lighter, freer, and at peace. Hindrance 3, sloth and torpor, the weight of laziness and dullness. The third hindrance is called sloth and torpor. It is not just ordinary tiredness, like needing a night of sleep. Rather, it is a dull, heavy state that settles over the body and mind. It makes everything feel slow and dim, as if we were trying to see through a thick fog. In this state, even simple tasks feel difficult. The mind loses its sharpness, and the heart feels weighed down. It is as though the natural brightness of awareness has been covered by clouds. Energy is blocked, enthusiasm fades, and clarity is lost. We have all experienced this before. Perhaps while sitting in meditation, the eyelids grow heavy, the body slumps, and the mind drifts in a haze. Or during daily life, we may feel stuck in habits of procrastination, where even the smallest effort feels like too much. This is the pull of sloth and torpor. The Buddha compared the mind under this hindrance to water covered with algae. The water is there, but it is concealed, unclear, unable to reflect the light of wisdom. In the same way, when a mind is heavy with dullness, its natural clarity cannot shine through. So how do we overcome this? The teaching is not to fight against it with force, but to balance effort with rest. Sometimes this dullness comes from genuine physical exhaustion. In that case, the kindest practice is simply to rest, to sleep, or to nourish the body. When the body is cared for, the mind often regains its brightness naturally. But other times, sloth and torpor are not due to tiredness at all. They come from avoidance, from not wanting to face what is here. In those moments, the antidote is to gently awaken energy. We can refresh the body with mindful movement, a short walk, or a few deep breaths that bring oxygen and life back into us. Even opening the eyes wide, straightening the posture, or practicing meditation in a well-lit place can stir up vitality. Uplifting reflections also play a role. When the heart remembers its purpose, why we practice, why we wish to cultivate awareness, there's a natural rising of energy. We can recall teachings that inspire us. Think of people who embody wisdom and compassion, or reflect on the precious opportunity of this human life. Such reflections act like sunlight breaking through the fog, reawakening the brightness of the mind. It is important to recognize that sloth and torpor are not signs of failure. They are simply conditions that arise, like weather passing through the sky. The key is to respond wisely, sometimes with rest, sometimes with energy, always with awareness. When we find this balance, the fog begins to lift. The mind becomes lighter, clearer, more alert. And in that clarity, the natural joy of practice can return. Sloth and torpor may seem like small hindrances, just a bit of laziness or dullness. But when we see their effect, we realize they rob us of life's vividness. Working skillfully with them allows us to rediscover the freshness that is always within reach. Hindrance 4: Restlessness and worry, the chattering monkey mind. The fourth hindrance is restlessness and worry, the mind that refuses to sit still. It is that constant chattering within, that uneasy movement of thought after thought, as if our mind were pacing in circles, never able to settle. The Buddha once compared this to a monkey leaping from branch to branch. Think of how restless monkeys behave in the wild. They never stop, never linger in one place, always pulling, grabbing, and swinging. In the same way, when restlessness and worry take hold, our thoughts scatter endlessly. We replay the past, worrying about what we should have done differently, or we rush ahead into the future, trying to solve problems that have not even come. This mental agitation may not seem as heavy as anger or as dull as sloth, but it is deeply draining. It robs us of energy, makes the heart unsettled, and keeps us from seeing things clearly. A restless mind cannot look deeply, just as a pond stirred by wind cannot reflect the moon. So how do we work with this hindrance? The practice here is mindfulness. Mindfulness means gently guiding the mind back to the present, again and again, with patience and kindness. When we notice our thoughts leaping about, we do not scold ourselves, just as we would not scold a small child for being playful. Instead, we calmly and compassionately guide the mind back, perhaps to the feeling of the breath or to the simple act of being here, right now. We might imagine restlessness like a bird flapping wildly in a cage. The more it flaps, the more tired it becomes. But when the bird learns to rest on its perch, it regains its strength and steadiness. In the same way, when we allow the mind to pause, if only for a breath, the agitation begins to lose its grip. Another support against worry is the cultivation of trust. Often, worry is born from the belief that we must control everything, that the future will collapse if we do not keep rehearsing it in our minds. But life is never fully in our control. When we remember that and learn to trust the natural unfolding of causes and conditions, the grip of worry begins to loosen. It is also helpful to reflect with wisdom. Restlessness may come from guilt about the past or fear of the future, but the past cannot be changed and the future has not yet arrived. The only place we can truly live, breathe, and act is here in this present moment. So each time the mind grows restless, we practice returning gently to now, to the breath, to the body, to the sounds around us. Slowly, the storm of thoughts settles and the waters of the mind grow clear again. Patience is key. Just as we calm a child with a soft voice and a gentle touch, we can calm our own restless heart with understanding. We do not force the mind into silence. We invite it into stillness. And when stillness arises, even for a few moments, we begin to taste a freedom deeper than anything restlessness could offer. Hindrance 5, doubt, the cloud of uncertainty. The fifth hindrance is doubt. Not the healthy kind of doubt that leads us to ask questions, investigate, and deepen our wisdom, but the heavy, paralyzing kind, the kind that wraps around the mind like a fog and makes every direction uncertain. It's like standing at a crossroads, unsure of which path to take. Instead of moving forward, we simply stand still, worrying that whichever way we choose will be the wrong one. And so we go nowhere. This kind of doubt doesn't expand wisdom, it freezes it. It whispers, "Can I really do this? Is this practice even working? What if I'm wasting my time?" These voices of hesitation drain courage and prevent us from experiencing the deeper calm that practice brings. Now, it is important to see that not all doubt is harmful. The Buddha himself encouraged questioning, reflection, and careful examination of the teachings. This is the kind of doubt that sharpens understanding, a healthy curiosity that asks, "What is true?" and then seeks to test it. But paralyzing doubt is different. It doesn't inspire investigation. It keeps us trapped in circles of uncertainty, never committing, never experiencing. So how we step through this cloud? The key is direct experience. No amount of thinking can clear doubt completely. We may read books, hear talks, or even memorize scriptures, but until we test the teachings in our own lives, doubt lingers. It is like someone telling us about the taste of honey. We can listen to their descriptions for hours, sweet, golden, smooth. But until we place a drop of honey on our own tongue, the words are just words. Experience cuts through doubt in a way that reasoning never can. This is why the path is always described as one of practice, not just belief. Study the teachings, reflect on their meaning, and then bring them into your daily life, into how you breathe, how you speak, how you respond to challenges. Notice what changes. Do you feel a little more calm, a little more clarity, a little more compassion? That direct seeing is the medicine for doubt. Confidence in the path grows not from blind faith, but from gentle verification, step by step. When we practice mindfulness and discover for ourselves that it lessens agitation, we trust it a little more. When we practice kindness and see how it softens our relationships, we trust it further. And with each small proof, doubt loosens its grip. So when doubt arises, remember, you don't need to solve it all at once. You only need to take one step and then another. Keep practicing. Keep observing. Let experience be your guide. Over time, confidence becomes steady. Not arrogance, not rigid belief, but a quiet inner knowing that says, yes, this works. I have seen it for myself. And in this way, the fog of doubt clears. The crossroads becomes a path. And we walk forward, calmly, steadily, with trust born of lived experience. Living beyond the hindrances, freedom of a clear mind. The five hindrances are not enemies to fight. They are not flaws that make us broken, nor signs that we are failing in practice. They are simply natural movements of the human mind. Think of them like passing weather. Sometimes the sky is bright and open, and at other times clouds gather, winds rise, and rain falls. No matter how heavy the storm, we know the vast sky has never disappeared. In the same way, the hindrances may seem overwhelming when they are present, but they do not define who we are. The important thing to remember is this: the hindrances do not have to control us. They visit, they stir, and they fade. When we stop fighting them or feeding them, they lose their grip. Each hindrance, if we approach it with mindfulness, becomes a teacher. Desire shows us our attachment to pleasure. Aversion shows us our resistance to discomfort. Sloth and torpor remind us to care for both body and mind. Restlessness points to our lack of grounding, and doubt shines a light on the places where trust and confidence still need nurturing. In this way, hindrances are not obstacles blocking the path. They're signs along the path, pointing us toward where growth is needed. When we learn to read these signs with patience, they guide us back again and again to clarity. Just as clouds eventually pass and reveal the sun, when the hindrances settle, the mind reveals its natural state, clear, spacious, and radiant with wisdom. This clarity is not something new we have to create. It has always been there, waiting beneath the turbulence. The work, then, is not to force the hindrances away. Trying to suppress them only adds more struggle. It is like trying to push down waves in the ocean with your hands. The more you push, the more waves appear. Instead, the practice is to watch with gentle awareness, allowing the waves to rise and fall on their own. Patience softens their intensity, and steady mindfulness allows them to pass. Overcoming the hindrances is a matter of consistency, not force. It is about showing up day by day, breath by breath, with the intention to notice, to learn, and to stay kind with ourselves. Some days the mind will be bright, other days cloudy. But even in the cloudy days, practice is happening. The effort itself plants seeds of freedom. And when we live with fewer hindrances, something beautiful happens. There is more space in the heart. Instead of being pulled in every direction by craving, anger, or worry, we discover a steady ground within. That space allows compassion to grow naturally, because a mind not entangled in its own struggles has room to care for others. And in that space, there's also freedom. Not the freedom of doing whatever we want, but the deeper freedom of not being controlled by habits and reactions. A freedom that feels like breathing fully after being held tight for too long. A freedom that is not shaken by every storm. This is the gift of working with the hindrances. Not perfection, not escape, but the quiet strength of a clear and steady mind. So let us remember, the hindrances are part of being human. They're not barriers to awakening, but stepping stones toward it. With patience, awareness, and compassion, each one becomes a doorway, guiding us closer to wisdom, closer to peace, closer to freedom. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Buddha Light Podcast. May these reflections help you recognize and gently work through the hindrances in your own practice. Each step you take, no matter how small, clears the path a little more. I look forward to sharing the next teaching with you soon. Until then, may your mind be steady, your heart be clear, and your path be bright.